Video highlights from Dirt Track Speedway, presented by Fast Chefs by Axle Exchange. They're not just fast, they're first. FastChefs.com. Bucky Doren, another edition of Dirt Track Speedway, a show about Iowa's dirt track lifestyle. Not necessarily a show about results or video highlights, but it is a show about weekly racing and some of the things that make it tick or make it move and so forth. Before we get going tonight, I just got a message. Arlo Becker had passed away, and so I had to do a little bit of digging, and I went to Ryan Clark's Facebook page. Although he shared it with just his friends, I thought I'd share just a little bit of it. Arlo Becker, with the news out there in our racing family, we've lost Arlo Becker today, and he gave a few stats here that he had earned 51 career IMCA sanctioned wins, 13 other non-sanctioned ones at Vinton, and at the time of his last win, he was second all-time of winning modified drivers behind Jack Mitchell. Today, I think he's still fourth overall, but thoughts and prayers to the racing family, a name that people from central Iowa no doubt know the name. Arlo Becker passed away. So coming up on tonight's episode of Dirt Track Speedway, Episode 7, the heat races. That's a first. I had a handful of firsts that I saw this past weekend. There were some wins that were first times, and something that I don't think I've ever seen a driver give away before, a first for me. Trophy Dash, there's two more names that we're going to be adding to our Fast Shafts Invitational. Two names are already on it, two more to come this week. Our A-Main conversation, Star Power, and how the Star Power might actually be kind of a fuse more than a power. And Victory Lane speech tonight, a new weekly show is on the horizon. That and more in this edition of Dirt Track Speedway. Race conversation is talking about where did I put them? There they are. Some first-time things that I've seen. The first, that's a first for modified driver Clint Llewellyn. Clint Llewellyn grabbed his first ever IMCA modified win, has several wins in the Sport Mods, several big wins in the IMCA Sport Mods, but grabbed his first win. It was on Wednesday at the Buena Vista Raceway on last Wednesday night. While I was doing my show, he was shooing it to Victory Lane. Another first that happened this weekend, Saturday night, Josh Barta from Cedar Falls grabbed his first modified win ever, and he did that over at the Independence Motor Speedway, got the trophy and the car in the shop, and enjoyed his first win. So congratulations to Clint Llewellyn of Midburn and Josh Barta from Cedar Falls. Another first was Mark Hurst was hoping to become the first winner of the Fast Shafts Invitational. He sent this private message to Dirt Track Speedway on Facebook, and it said that, where did I put it there? My new drive shaft couldn't wait to win the new one. He's, don't worry, Mark, you're still in the drawing there, but thank you for making an excellent choice. The official sponsor of the show is Fast Shaft, so thank you. And now Zach Vanderbeek, this was something that I saw first time a long time ago, and this was something unique, and I wanted to point out some of the things that drivers give away to race fans, especially the young ones. My kid got this, I don't even remember where we were at. But Zach gave that to Chase, and Chase brought it home and colored it up, and then on my birthday gave it to me. So I thought that was kind of a unique twist, but I finally have thought I'd seen it all when it comes to first, but then I saw Levi Nielsen, and I saw this via Facebook on the Levi Nielsen S&T Motorsports page, and they shared this publicly. They were giving away earplugs. They have a sponsor, the Hearing Associates PC in Mason City, and they race in Mason City. I thought that was a unique giveaway, encouraging fans to come on down. So kudos to you, Levi, and the team for coming up with a unique and also helpful item to give away, especially for the kids. So for the Trophy Dash, we're going to get a couple more names. Last week, we were getting two names in on it. Shane Ebaugh and Brian Schrage are in the drawing for a brand new drive shafts, thanks to Fast Shafts by Axle Exchange, a proud supporter not only of stuff I've done over the years, but also the beginning of Dirt Track Speedway. Fast Shafts can handle drive shafts, repair new drive shafts, setter sections, for 9-inch rear ends, yokes, and so much more. They're not just fast, they're first. It's Fast Shafts by Axle Exchange. Thank you to Pat Fagan. Now, to get yourself entered, what we're doing, now if you look in the background, Artifice Speedway, we'll get a video of that here in just a second here. Artifice Speedway is going to be hosting its very first ever event known as the Fast Shafts Invitational. Now, we're going to get 6 names drawn. We've got 2 already drawn. Get 2 more here in just a little bit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to stage a race at Artifice Speedway. And so what we'll do is before this race starts, we'll randomly assign these 6 drivers to 6 different cars on the speedway, and then whoever wins that race is going to end up winning that drive shaft thanks to Fast Shafts at by Axle Exchange. Tonight, I got random.org. Let me get my email pulled up here. Okay, random.org is what we use. All right. There's this many drivers. First one. Looks like Mark Steiner sent in, because you don't have to be a driver. You can be a crew member or a fan of somebody. Matt Ganson drives the number 2 GIMC Modified out of Dubuque, Iowa. Congratulations, Matt. You are now in the Fast Shafts Invitational at Artifice Speedway. And our final name tonight getting added. And that many. All right, so it's that number. Daniel Waters from Iowa City. Brandon Schneider, a crew member, nominated you. So congratulations, Mr. Hobby Stock Driver. Daniel Waters and Matt Ganson, congratulations. You guys are now a part of the first ever Fast Shafts Invitational at Artifice Speedway. A main conversation tonight talking about star power. I try to read as much as I can and keep up with everything, but there's so much information out there and so many places to go. And I happened to just stumble across one this afternoon from Positively Racing. Jeff Brogue and the crew that post up there do a great job of either doing race recaps for events that I can't get to or just opinions. And Jeff went off on a rant. He apologized profusely, but went off on a rant. And there was a couple of different points. I think 3 points plus 1 is what he called it. And there was one about live video and so forth. You'll let you read that one. But the one that struck the most interest to me that Jeff Brogue had written about was about race format. Now, he had seen some fans and drivers this past weekend complaining about the Dream format, the Dream that took place over in Eldora, how basically the conversation was fast guys should start up front, fast guys should not start up front. An invert penalizes them, an invert puts on a show. So I get the perspective of the fast guys not wanting to have to run through other guys or race through other guys because they're trying to minimize the risk. Those faster cars are usually the more popular drivers, and they feel that they should, and some of them, I'm not going to say all of them because some of them get the whole point of it and actually enjoy trying to pass cars, but they try to minimize the risk of wrecking their machines because of that invert. Well, let's face it, there are some cherry pickers out there, and that's really what they're all about. But I get the perspective of trying to save the equipment. But anyway, they say that we're the ones putting on the show, so put us up front. Now, there's a handful that do that, and apparently a handful have done that in the past here in Iowa. Rumors unsubstantiated, but I have heard and seen it a few years ago and saw it very strongly when I ran the Hawkeye Dirt Tour about things on how we did that with a few drivers. Anyway, it is out there. The thing to remember is that a race, any race, whether it's a weekly show or a special, it's about the driver, but it's also about the fan. We have to find that middle common ground. It's about the drivers and the fans. They're one of the most important aspects of the race. If your qualifying format calls for some sort of invert, points, time, etc., some drivers have put promoters on notice that they're not going to show up. I'm not going to come to your show because I don't like your format. And if you want me, who puts on the show, you need to change it to accommodate me. And promoters, it's one thing to get the opinion of drivers, and I encourage you to do so. Tim Current does a great job with Darkside Promotions talking with the drivers. I don't think he lets the drivers dictate what he does, but he does allow the drivers some influence. And we did that, Chris Marchese and I, when we ran the Hawkeye Dirt Tour. And there's other promoters too, but those are the ones that just come to mind right now. Anyway, they'll threaten to not show up. Now, if you're going to do that, great, ask the questions, but don't let it dictate how you run your program. I encourage you to ask the questions and then base your decisions off input and what you think is going to be the best show. But while you're asking the drivers, I also encourage you to ask the fans to make sure you get their feedback. A lot of drivers that might tell you that they want to start up front, but Jeff Brogue gave an example in his story about drivers starting up front, and there was no passing, and finally on the last lap, one guy kind of shook up off of turn 4, and the guy passed him, and it was a close finish at the very end, and people are going to only remember that. They're not going to remember the other 99 laps that took place that was follow the leader freight train stuff. Now, granted, there's all kinds of variables that factor into whether or not it's a racy track. There's weather conditions, driver's ability, track prep, but there's also putting the guys up front that minimizes the amount of passing that you're going to have. So don't be afraid to ask the fans and the drivers the opinion, but don't let the fans or the drivers dictate, Mr. Promoter or Mrs. Promoter or Ms. Promoter if you're nasty. Let them dictate the format. So since some drivers seem to think it's okay to put promoters on notice that I'm not going to show up if you run it a certain way, I'm going to put you, on behalf of some of the fans that agree with me, we're going to put you on notice. If you're not going to make it entertaining, or at least give us a chance to have an entertaining race, we're not going to show up either. If you guys want to earn the money, make them earn it as well. Just my 2 cents for tonight's A-Main conversation. But understand that I'm just a fan, and I'm only a part of this cog. Drivers need to have input, promoters need to have input, and the fans as well need the input. So moving on now to our Victory Lane conversation for tonight. The new weekly show. I saw earlier this morning on Facebook there was one particular fan of mine, or not fan, friends of mine on Facebook was talking about low car counts. Now I've seen it by border to border that car counts are down at most tracks. Some tracks are in bad shape. Some are on critical condition. And they were asking the question posed by this one individual, and since it wasn't shared publicly, I won't mention his name. That's the only reason why I'm not mentioning it. Anyway, there was a lot of talk about what exactly is the issue. The goal was to have the drivers and car owners talk about it, but of course everyone has an opinion, track officials, race fans, and there was all kinds of people chiming in about it because not only do they have an opinion, a lot of people wanted to share it. So some of the ones that I saw was a few drivers said that it's cost and the payouts. The payouts don't equal drivers' risk reward anymore. All right, valid point. A few mentioned that some drivers are in what they felt were entry-level classes and they need to move up because they're dominating. Okay, I understand the theory on that. Another was no new drivers are getting into the sport. They don't wrench on cars because, well, it's hard to be a tuner anymore or a wrencher anymore because all the cars that are coming out of Detroit or wherever they're coming from nowadays, you have to take them to the shop. You have to allow somebody else because there's computers in there, there's sensors in there, and there's all sorts of things that think for you, airbags and all this other stuff that is all computerized. You can't just get out some wrenches and wrench on your car anymore because you need computer technology to do it. So young guys and gals aren't getting excited about it. It's killing the sport. And there was a list that goes on and on and on, but no one person I noticed said, well, it's my fault. I'll be the first to say, hey, it's my fault. Well, at least I'm a part of the problem. Let me explain. Take a look at racing schedule that we just did this last episode here of during the Last Chance qualifiers. How many specials were there? How many specials were there last week and the week before? I remember growing up maybe 10, 15 years ago, you could fit all the races on one index card that were specials through the course of a year. Nowadays, you can barely fit it in some weeks all on one index card. And promoters have listened to the drivers talking about, hey, we need better pay. So someone like me came along and invented something that people have been talking about for years, the Hawkeye Dirt Tour, 1,000 to win special. And when we created it, there weren't a whole lot of those specials out there. You could count the number of 1,000 to win shows on two hands. Well, nowadays, that's about how many it takes for 1 week. So the promoter saw it work, so they started to do that. They heard what the driver said, saw that it worked, and then all of a sudden they decided to add more. Well, now they've taken it to the nth degree because 1,000 isn't exciting anymore. It's become kind of the new weekly amount in people's eyes. So now they have to pay 2,000, 3,000, 5,000. Start money is all changing as well. And as we as fans get excited about it, so we go and support it. As we as drivers and race teams get excited about it and see the cost risk reward aspect of it, so we go and support it. And all of a sudden the promoters see it working, so then they're outdoing themselves and trying to schedule on top of themselves. And everyone keeps going to those all along the while. The weekly show has become basically a bunch of drivers getting together and racing in the backyard. Now, I'm not saying get rid of specials, but I'm saying we need to find some way to moderate it so that a special that happens every week suddenly becomes what everyone expects on a weekly show. Pretty soon, weekly is going to die out. So I don't really have the one fix-all answer that says, hey, racing needs this in order to fix and keep weekly racing going. Because without weekly racing, you're not going to have the specials or the super specials or the mega specials. Without that, it's going to fall by the wayside. The one thing I do know that is along the way of those 12 steps, first you have to admit that you have a problem or a part of the problem. So I would really love, I'll be honest with you, this isn't really kind of anything it just popped into my head. I don't think there's any way you could moderate it, but I would love to have all the promoters get together and find some way to work together on scheduling stuff. For example, we've got 3 specials paying fairly good money this coming Tuesday night. And I would love to be able to find a way that all the promoters work together and not schedule on top of one another. But we as fans are going to go and support them. So it's just, like I said, it's just a big vicious circle. No matter what we do, somebody's going to be upset about it. But we need to find the common ground that minimizes the damage done. East, west, north, south, somehow to work it all together. Kumbaya, let's sing by the campfire and hold hands. If tracks work with 3 each other as opposed to scheduling on top of each other, the weekly shows wouldn't suffer as much. You know, I've saw actually, that's a great point, PJ. I love that. I actually have seen in the past promoters work together to not schedule on, hey, I'm going to run this special. I noticed you're not running late models this week because you got something going on at a different track that's further away, and we don't share a lot of cars, so I'm going to run a late model special that night. Are you cool with it? I've seen that happen. I've also seen where tracks are going to take a night off because they're cross-promoting with others. So I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying it doesn't happen enough. And I want to make sure that we find a way to keep things rolling there. Anyway, one more time talking about the Fast Shafts Invitational. Make sure you send your email, fastshafts@dirttrackspeedway.com, and you can get your favorite driver in as well. Hey, Jerry, thanks for tuning in from Mesquite, Texas. Always love to have that. Out-of-staters giving love to, well, hopefully promoting dirt track racing in general. Again, that email address for the Fast Shafts is at fastshafts@dirttrackspeedway. Last chance to get your name in. We're going to draw the last 2 names next Monday. The next show is June 19th, 9 p.m., and then June 26th on Monday. Both of those are Mondays at 9 p.m. We'll have another show, plus that will be the running of the Fast Shafts Invitational coming up on June 26th. Thank you guys for tuning in. It was a bit rushed. Normally don't have them on Monday nights for a reason, just a busy day at work, so hopefully it was still fun and entertaining, and I appreciate everyone tuning in and all the shares as well. Make sure you like Dirt Track Speedway if you're just finding the show for the first time. If not, share it out and get more people in on it, because I'd love to be able to keep the show going. And I've got some things that I'm trying to work on. Been talking with a few drivers about doing a few things from their shop. So hopefully we can get a little time and test on that here in the next couple of weeks, because I think that's going to be a really cool idea, behind-the-scenes kind of stuff. But that is it for this edition of Dirt Track Speedway. Pat Fagan, thank you very much. Fast Shafts by Axle Exchange, proud sponsor, title sponsor of Dirt Track Speedway. And for Artifice Speedway, Pat Fagan and Fast Shafts, my name is Bucky Doren. Thanks for tuning in, Episode 7 of Dirt Track Speedway.